Hello and welcome. This is my Assessment 3 video and I will be discussing a variety of aspects to the English curriculum and pedagogical approaches that can be implemented into the classroom. First, we will touch base with the Victorian curriculum and what sort of assessments that will occur within this domain. The Victorian curriculum is very similar to the Australian curriculum. However, there are some minute tweaks that have been made to it. One important thing I want to point out is that in the curriculum we have 8 learning areas and 4 capabilities that are part of all aspects of the curriculum. These being critical and creative thinking, ethical, intellectual, personal, and social. But one important factor I want to point out is that on the English side to the curriculum and how valued the literacy strand is. For example, there are a variety of different subject areas that require literacy to blend into another class. An example of this could be music, and students in grades 5 to 6 are required to make a rap, which can simulate poetry, or even as simple as doing a word problem in a maths class. Literacy is something that blends into all subject areas. Now we're going to break down how the English curriculum is formed, and that is down by modes, strands, and substrands. What we need to know is what are these modes and what do they do. The language modes act as content descriptors and work with the strands of knowledge. Sometimes these areas overlap and help the students express their learning. An example the Victorian curriculum gives is that students will learn new vocab from their listening and reading, and then we'll be able to share and express their new vocab through comprehension. So this is done through speaking and listening. So now we'll break down these strands. So reading and viewing, this is the student's ability to critically think, analyze, and be able to reflect upon the information that is given to them. Next is writing, and this is the student's ability to plan, compose, and edit, sort of in some way just like writing this assignment. And finally, we have speaking and listening. This relates to the student's ability to interpret meaning from oral language, as well as their ability to express it. Next, we have strands, which is part. So these strands underpin the necessary learning tools that require the students to understand and be able to express. So language covers the student's knowledge of the English language and be able to express vocab. Next is literature and how texts affect society, and this involves, socially, intellectually, and emotionally how they affect society. And finally, literacy is how students are able to unpack and analyze texts as well as their life after school. So this is their fluency in vocab. So this is where literacy and language are able to link together. Now, each of these strands break down to something that is called a substrand. So in order to understand this, what we have here is a little diagram. So first, our mode would be reading and viewing. It is under the language section. And our substrand would be literature. For example, mode is our reading and viewing. We are in the literature section, and our response is to respond to literature. Now I'm going to discuss how we use the curriculum to plan. In order to be able to plan effectively and ably and strong for our students, we have to know our curriculum. We have to know which modes work together, which strands blend together, and which substrands are able to interact with one another. It allows us different approaches for the teachers, and it allows the students to be able to learn in different ways. Substrands allow for teachers to ensure that they are teaching all required points in the curriculum, to ensure all students are learning as much as they possibly can. An example I want to give is part of the grade 2 curriculum. And this is under the strand of reading and viewing, language, and phonics and word knowledge. If we are able to teach the students some generalizations such as suffixes and being able to know all about language and vocab, we should be able to find another point and be able to blend it into a teaching. So an example I'm going to use is visual representations and characters and being able to use speech. Why can't we just blend these two lessons together and be able to put stories and suffixes together? The only way to do this is by teaching effectively, clear and concisely. If we know this curriculum better, we can effectively teach our students rather than teaching one strand at a time. In order to combat this, we have to test regularly. We have to ensure that our students are remembering and retaining the knowledge that we are teaching them. If we are not testing correctly, we may not be teaching correctly, especially for graduate students like me. To give a little bit of personal experience when it comes to the curriculum and trying to blend lessons and everything together. So my first placement was at a primary school. One thing I was taught is that I have to know a lot about the curriculum, and that's one thing my mentor pushed down to encourage me to do. Although I am a graduate, so there still is gaps within my memory and knowledge to the curriculum and how I'm going to present it to my class critically and effectively. Lessons will be slow because of my inexperience, and I understand I will be making mistakes because I am a graduate. This is a lesson that I completed when I was in my second year, and it was focusing on short imaginative texts. And I remember my mentor was like, this is a great opportunity to, put something else in from the curriculum, because this was in grade 1 too. So this is a little bit of a reflection that I completed after the. Now I'd like to touch upon some approaches that I think are very effective when it comes to the English curriculum. Firstly, I want to discuss inquiry-based learning and how it is effective for all students involved. It gives students a chance to find their own learning and help guide those that are regarded as lower learners. In terms of development, it helps all students, especially those that are not socially developed, as you compare that student up with someone that they trust, hence for my thought of Bandura's theory. The physical development is also touched upon, as we need mind behavioural problems for those students that are up in higher primary. Intellectually, it can also help the lower learners by modifying the questions to help guide them through tasks. When it comes to diversity, I feel like it's great because it gives students from different backgrounds and status, they can discuss what they feel comfortable about in their own life. It gives an interesting perspective for the other students, and they can see their viewpoint. It is also that students with disabilities, they can get involved as well, whether it be through a guided process or being involved in a discussion. They were able to discuss their own point of view. This is very effective for EAL learners as well. Another quick case study I want to touch on is the case study learning. And this gives students from all different areas, such as their social background. It gives students another lens to look through. They'll be able to see it, whether it be socially, culturally, intellectually. It gives a different viewpoint, and I feel like it's great for students that are speaking EAL or they have a disability. It gives a case study and a point of view that the other students wouldn't be able to see. This is all very well and good, but how am I going to ensure that my teaching is effective? Let's place this up against the EEC standards. To ensure that we are meeting expectations, one of the points that points out the most to me is 1.4. And this is the strategies for teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids. I believe the inquiry model is great because it allows everyone to be able to talk about their culture and social background. And it also gives another example for other students to discuss. This too works for the case study. I would also like to discuss the Victorian teaching and learning model. 5, which is HITS, collaborative learning, allows all students to reach their learning goals, which is great because everyone in the class is involved. Everyone's going to end up at the same point. Practice principles, it allows for all voices to be heard. This is why it links to number 3. As well as the 5 E's, it allows students to explore other ideas as well as engage with one another. And they find out new answers they probably wouldn't have thought of before.